You're tuned in to Positively Terrible. I'm producer Dan, and each week my buddy Scott and I discuss surviving and thriving after trauma. It's a journey that started when Scott, his wife's fiance, and her boyfriend all walked into a bar. This week's decent human being is Julie. She's got a fucked up story about a fucked up marriage. Settle in, my terrible listeners. Today's episode is going to be positively terrible.
I was nervous and stressed because I thought you were the best. I was right.
Hey, Scott.
Dan, what's going on, man?
Well, I'm recording a podcast and I'm trying to get my tax stuff together for the year. So it's been a pretty exciting day.
Oh, that sounds incredibly exciting.
Oh yeah.
My days lately have been a little bit different. I've been doing things for me, Dan. I do want to say, I want to tell everyone, I'm going to plug something for myself here. I relaunched my blog. I haven't written in years. And I just want to say, for my mental health, it has not been great lately. And I decided to do some things that are just for me. And I relaunched my blog. It's at necessarilyverbose.com. Very easy for our listeners to spell.
I certainly can't spell that, but I'll Google it and put it in the show notes.
Well, I have shared it on the page, on the Instagram and the Facebook and all of that stuff, or at least on mine. So it can be found there. But I've also been trying to be a little bit more social. So guess what I've been doing of late?
No, I'm going to guess. You have been getting milkshakes. You've been going to a soda fountain and getting milkshakes.
Well, I have had a Frosty or two too many recently, but that is not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I am back in the ski league.
Ooh, yes. Yeah. I love skee ball.
Yes. I remember the day that you sent a message when I was in a meeting at work. You sent a chat that said adult skee ball league. Of course, I'm reading these messages while I'm at work. And so I can't even read the whole message you said. All I replied was yes. I had no idea of the context, when, where, anything, but hearing adult skee ball sounded pretty awesome to me. So I'm actually in the league on a team with neighbor Francis, a guest from episode 2 or 3, I believe that was. And it's. I will say that I'm not anywhere near as good as I was when we were playing season after season, but it's been a lot of fun.
How's Francis?
Francis is doing well. I know that I updated that he got married.
No. I don't care about how's Francis's life. How's Francis at skee ball?
Well, he's getting better. He is getting better. Definitely finding himself with the whole bank off of the side rail. Julie, you may not know this, but when you play in what we call we'll call it pro-am skee ball. It's not professional level. It's not quite amateur level. You got to use the bank shot. You don't roll straight up the middle. You bank it off the rail. You have a lot more control. So, Julie, when was the last time you played skee ball?
Oh, decades ago. But I love it. It's always,
do you?
When I was a kid, it was always the one thing I'd run to and be like, yes, I want to go play skee ball.
Well, that's a good answer.
Yeah, I was going to say there was probably less alcohol than at the skee ball leagues that I play in. Not everyone partakes. I usually don't partake, but it is in a bar because it is an adult league. We have a lot of fun. The machines are smaller than the ones that you're probably used to. Did you play it at like Chuck E. Cheese or one of those types of places?
Probably some carnival or something.
Okay.
I grew up in a really small town. We didn't Chuck E. Cheese was a solid 2 hours drive away.
Okay. Well, these machines are small because they're made for bars, and it actually makes it a lot more fun, in my opinion. I'm saying this as a guy who did love the old machines as a kid, but you can get more of those hundreds, and those are things you can't get on those machines at Chuck E. Cheese or the carnivals or whatever.
Well, Julie, if you find yourself in the Chicago vicinity, I hope you let Scott and I take you out for a night of skee ball.
I would love that.
Awesome. Awesome. Let's do it. It's a
Yeah,
plan.
for sure. And for anyone that is in Chicago, we're going to give a free plug to our buddies over at the Chicago Ski League. You can find them on Facebook under the Ski League, I believe, or the Ski League Chicago. Not sure exactly what one, but
There'll be a link in the show notes after I Google.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Okay, let's get this show on the road.
Please.
Julie, fucked up story about a fucked up marriage. So I've had one of those before. So I want to hear kind of why are you here today, and tell us a little bit more about this fucked up marriage.
Yeah, it was definitely fucked up. In 2008, my husband had a child with another woman, and I was so emotionally abused and broken down. I just decided to stay for another 2 years. Like, why the hell not? Sure, let's stay in this toxic bullshit. And that led to a whole rabbit hole of healing and growth and, all the painful stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a familiar story in that what decent fucking humans do, then we talk to a lot of them, is turn our shit into something good and learn from it and heal from it. So I'm so glad you were able to do that. And Julie, let's talk about that a little bit. How'd you meet this husband?
Through mutual friends. But like, you guys have the best sense of humor, and we did. We were sarcastic and riff off each other, and we just hit it off great. For a few years.
Okay.
Until
Paint the picture. How'd you guys meet?
We had I don't know if a blind date, but like a group date.
Uh-huh.
And like instant connection. I'm not generally men don't generally bowl me over or anything. And this guy was so not my type. Absolutely not my type. He looked like, goth guy, dark black hair, black fingernails, not at all my type. And the minute I opened the door and I'm like, turn around, have a seat. I walked in the kitchen. I did 2 shots of tequila, like right away. And I walked in my girlfriend's bedroom because this is where we met. And I sat down on the bed and I'm just like, I couldn't say anything. I was just kind of like moaning and rocking for a minute. She's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know, but this guy. She was like, what? And we were pretty much inseparable from that moment.
Wow. And were you, like, what stage of life were you in? Was this like
I was
high school,
30.
college, after college?
Nope, I was 30.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're established. You've got a job. You kind of know what's going on in the world at 30.
Sure. I thought I knew everything at 30 still. Not as much as I knew at 25.
At 15.
Right?
Ever since then, I feel like I know a little bit less.
I was going to say, so why does that happen? Why do we age and feel like we know less than we did 10 years ago?
Right. It's progressively, you get progressively stupider. Like, I thought I knew everything, but no, I don't.
Well, I feel like I just have a better understanding of how vast the amount of knowledge in the world is and how little of it I possess.
Yeah.
And Dan, it's even less than you think.
No shit. I'll know a little more tomorrow about how much I don't know.
I mean, let's start by trying to spell necessarily verbose. No, sorry. Julie, I'm sorry. We get off track a little bit.
No, it's okay. I think wisdom is knowing you don't know shit. Like, you're really wise when you realize I don't know a damn thing.
Yeah, for sure. And at that time, you didn't know you could fall in love with the goth guy.
Right.
But you did.
But I did.
And you said you said you were inseparable at first. So let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Yeah. We got along fantastic. He was kind of the dream guy.
Okay.
And everything was great. It seemed like.
Yeah. Was it one of those where date 2 was like the day after date 1, or a couple days later? Was it that intense?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in a weird transition place because I was living in Omaha,
Mhm.
and I had just accepted a new job like that day that I met him. So I was in Omaha for another week, and I had to figure out my stuff and move and pack and get down to Kansas City. And like this man, he met me a week ago. He came up, helped me move, pack, you know, met the family, was lifting and toting and doing all the things. And my dad was like, I like this guy. And I'm like, you just like him because he's moving me and you don't have. It's like,
Well, I would have liked him too.
right?
I'm a big fan of not helping people move. It's one there are a few things that I like more than not helping people move.
I understand that. I do.
So you met him, you guys clicked, spent a
Yep.
lot of time together. I know a lot of times they say that abusive people that start relationships will do the thing called love bombing.
Mhm.
And that's where that's showering someone with love. Well, I should do air quotes when I say that, with love,
Mhm.
um, to be the best person, the person that they want and need, and be everything for them before things change. Do you think that this was a form of love bombing?
I think some of it. Some of it was genuine. About a year after we met, I got a job offer, and my best friend, also who I was living with at the time, we both got a job offer at the same company in St. Louis, and we all moved to St. Louis. He came with us, and he changed in St. Louis significantly.
Okay.
I would say probably some clinical depression hit, and he was very, very unhappy there. I didn't
Okay.
love it either, but it was kind of off the charts. He was not the same
Okay. Well, I don't want to get to St. Louis quite yet. I would love to hear an example of some of the good times you had together. Do you still have good memories of that time?
I do. It was kind of the littlest things. It was always, I worked a very demanding job then.
Okay.
Come home and dinner is made, and make sure that I don't have to it's not that I didn't have to do anything, but he gave me space when I came home to just kind of decompress a little bit
Right.
and shift from, work mode.
Okay.
Presents, so many presents. Like, I'm telling you, half of my jewelry collection is from my ex-husband. He was
Still?
perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect on the jewelry recommendations. Yeah. Yep.
I love that you didn't go and throw it all out or anything.
Heck no, that's good jewelry.
Okay, then sell it. I don't know. That's good though. I'm glad you got something out of this deal. So we can skip to St. Louis now. Things are feeling pretty good. It sounds like, at least from the relationship. I guess just before St. Louis, though, were there any cracks that were forming?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Okay. So how long after you move? Oh, go ahead.
Well, everything was just natural.
So you're
We
just
didn't-
vibing.
Yeah, there was no at that point he had moved in with me and my best friend. We had a big house.
Okay.
My best friend and him got along great. Everything was just totally natural. And when it was moved to St. Louis, he worked retail, and I was in a marketing job. And so, to his mind, he's like, "Of course, I'm going with you guys. Like, of course, because I can do retail anywhere." It's like, oh, okay, here we go.
Right.
And off we all went to St. Louis.
All right.
And yeah, St. Louis was very, very hard on him. I feel kind of bad that he moved there for me, and I know that it really was hard on him.
How long were you there before you started to realize that?
We were there for a year. It was probably 4 to 6 months in.
Mm-hmm.
when I really started noticing how um, just depressed, angry, um, just sad. That's I guess sad. Yeah,
At this at this point, was it this toxic behavior starting?
no, toxic behavior wasn't. Maybe a little bit, but I didn't notice it then.
Yeah.
But the love bombing part was tapering off.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just, he was either trying to work a lot or he just didn't have the energy to do anything.
Okay. Do you think that maybe? Well, you know what? That I think that maybe my question's better suited for a little later. Let's talk about some of the changes in behavior and the way your relationship was going. You're not married at this point, correct?
No,
And
we were planning on it at this point.
okay, formally engaged yet, or just talking? We're going to get married.
Well, that was also a little bit weird, but it was not weird, but it was so natural. Like, we decided to get married when we were like road tripping.
Okay.
We're just driving somewhere and we're talking, just randomly talking in the car. He's like, why don't you grab the notebook and we can start planning our wedding? And I'm like, okay. And I grabbed the notebook and I start, like writing things out because it just felt like that felt natural to us. And then in St. Louis, he did formally propose. Okay. Super over the top romantic.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Because he was like a big, burly, bearded guy, had long hair, and he loved Disney stuff. So it was always kind of a Beauty and the Beast thing. It was a joke, right? And he treated me like a princess for so long. Mm-hmm. And when he proposed, he had these little, I guess, presents kind of throughout the house. When I came in, there was like a little present there with a note. And then it was followed this. And there was another present with a note, another present with a note. And everything kind of led up the stairs where he proposed. But it was a bunch of little, like, just a little carriage that was, a princess kind of carriage and a paperweight with flowers in it. And it was, flowers. And he had written basically a little poem for each thing. By the time I got up the stairs, I'm sobbing.
Yeah.
But that was very typical of his behavior. It was just super over the top of me.
I mean, I can see why you said yes. It sounds like things were going pretty well. Seems like he was presenting as a pretty fucking good guy. And I'm not trying to say he wasn't up until this point. He may have been. I wasn't there, and I'm not inside his head. I know that mental health and depression can do a lot to a person. Not an excuse for being a shithead. But it sounds, like if you said Disney, it sounds like a fairy tale. And then you got married. Had the dynamic started to change before you got married, or was it something that happened after?
I didn't think so, but I found out things later. I was like, oh, okay, that's I didn't know about that.
Okay. This sounds like the spicy stuff. What kind of things did you find out later?
After the divorce, people were more free to talk to me about things that they just kind of assumed I knew.
Okay.
And I remember sitting on the front porch of my house chatting with one of my friend's sisters. She was like, well, when he was kissing that other girl in the kitchen at your wedding venue, I figured this isn't going to last. I'm like, what?
Pause. Yeah.
Excuse me, what?
Ooh, okay.
on our wedding day.
Well, that seems a little disrespectful.
You think? You think? I mean, at least do it across the street, not in our wedding venue. What are you thinking?
Now, I don't even know how to ask, like, well, and not just about him, but when you say that people assumed you knew things, like, did people assume that you literally knew that he was making out with someone at your wedding?
I don't think they assumed that I knew. I think that specific person assumed someone had told me afterwards, but no one was going to tell me when it was happening.
Wow.
Except my mother-in-law tried.
Your mother-in-law tried.
Mm-hmm. Years into the marriage, she tried to let me know something was going on, and I didn't believe her.
Well, and based on parts of the story we're going to get to, I'm not sure that was coming from a good place.
No.
Okay. All right. So we teased that there's more to come.
Oh, man. You guys are good at this.
Are we? I'm just, Julie's just leading the way, and it's.
You're right, Julie. You're good at this.
I'm hearing we're in day one of the marriage, and I'm hearing why we're calling it a fucked up marriage.
Right.
All right. So day one, you both say I do, or whatever happens at a goth wedding. Maybe it's different than the weddings I've been to. I don't know. But did things kind of immediately change after that? After the wedding?
No. I think they were changing slightly before.
Oh, okay.
Go back a few months, about 6 months prior to us getting married. The job in St. Louis was like, we have to lay some people off in our department. And we had to lay off 2 people. And there were 2 of us that went in and volunteered to be laid off. Mm-hmm. I was one of them. And I did that because about 2 weeks prior, he had broken down sobbing in my arms about, I just can't be here anymore. We've got to get out of St. Louis. So I immediately was like, lay me off. I volunteer for tribute. Here we go. And had got a new job almost immediately back in Kansas City.
Okay.
And as you may think, when you immediately grab the first job available, you're like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah. That was a shit show. That was a big mistake. So I got fired from that one at my 90-day review. And everything in me was like, oh, thank you, God. Like it was the worst job for me, humanly possible. Yeah. And then 3 months later, we get married. So we are now 6 months into, we've moved back to Kansas City. We've, switched jobs, lost that job. I'm trying to figure out freelancing and figure out how to support the family because I made 3 times what he did. So just trying to figure out how to make it work. I'm in my identity crisis of I was my job. I was so career driven that now I'm like, well, who am I? What do I do? And obviously I failed because I got fired. Looking at it, from perspective, it was like, no, it was an impossible situation, but that's not what my emotions were at the time. Mm-hmm. So, it was all like, let's focus, let's get married. We're under so much stress, but it was like, it's going to be okay. It was a little bit of, let's put on some blinders and let's just do this thing and focus on moving forward.
Yeah. I know that story well.
Then like, we are marching down a red flagged lined aisle.
Yeah. And it's hard to see that when he's struggling in St. Louis and then you move and you're struggling for different reasons because of this job. Mm-hmm. And things may not be perfect, but there are going to be rough spots, and especially when there are external factors. Mm-hmm. So you lost this job and kind of lost your identity, you said. Mm-hmm. What's next?
I was just trying to figure it out, trying to freelance, trying to figure out, the money thing was a huge worry. He had a job immediately, so he's at least working.
Mm-hmm. Was he still like very supportive of you during this time?
Yes, but he was stressed out too, and his depression and his emotional issues didn't go away with moving van back across the state.
Yeah.
So he's still dealing with all that, and also he's spending time with friends at work more too, which also another red flag.
Well, I guess I have a question about that. When the way you said it, it sounds like, well, I think, okay. Oh, I think I'm picking up what you're putting down now. He was not at home is what you're getting at here.
Yep.
I thought for a second maybe you're saying that they were a bad influence on him, but I had a wife who also had reasons to not be at home herself. So was that the kind of the first thing that you noticed, is that he wasn't around as much?
Yeah, I think so. Just neither one of us were in a great place, professionally, financially, emotionally, together. We're trying to just muddle through and figure it out.
Yeah.
But it was like there was literally nothing quite going right for us at that time.
Yeah.
And that was like for about a year after we're married.
I'm trying to formulate this question, but with nothing quite going right, he wanted to move. So to have, that would be the thing that made him feel better. And it wasn't the magic bullet. And then you're going through some stuff. And are you thinking that with everything that's not going right, or at this point, are you still thinking that, once we get to a more stable place in our lives, we'll get back to normal?
Yeah, because I was focused on the financial, on the home life, on doing what I could do to make sure that we're being able to muddle through.
Right.
In my head, we're married. Full stop, done. My parents just last fall celebrated 60 years of marriage. My brother's been married for 30 years. Divorce wasn't in our family. We're just, nope. So to my brain, it never occurred to me this was going to happen. Not even a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I'm the same way. And sometimes it takes some kind of extreme things to push you out that door. And Julie, did you have one of those extreme things that made you realize that it was time?
I did.
Okay.
It was when I found out that he had a child with another woman. Not just another woman who I had known for years. She used to work with him. She was at our wedding. She was at our wedding. So it wasn't like, oop, I didn't know he was married.
Was it the same girl he was making out with at your wedding?
Julie?
Nope, different woman.
How many women in that room for that day has he at least made out with?
2 that I can confirm. About probably 4 that I'm kind of, I don't know.
Okay, is the
I don't know about, yeah.
Is the 2
what are the
including
odds
you?
We could get the 4 of them and you on the follow-up episode together.
0.
Okay.
Okay, and the way you said that, I think you said, I found out he had a child. Was it kept secret until the birth?
Yep. And I knew. Like, I can't even explain what or why or I don't know. I somehow knew. And I called him at work. And I confronted him, that he was cheating. And I knew in my gut, I was like, she's pregnant, isn't she? And he goes, not anymore. The fuck? Right? I remember
how'd you just know? How'd you just know?
Just a gut feeling. I just knew. I'm on the phone with him. I'm pacing back and forth, in the bedroom, yelling at him on the phone. And I stopped cold and I just knew there was a kid. I just knew it. And so I asked the question.
Yeah. At this point, did you know that there were other relationships that he had? So first time you found out he's been with somebody else, it's about this pregnancy.
Yeah. And this was in
pregnancy.
Yeah. This was in October when I was confronting him about it, and the baby had been born in July. So we're talking a full year of hiding this from me.
Was he part of this baby's life? I mean, would he see this child at that time and support the child?
Yep. He was seeing her, spending time with him, there. And I got curious about a few things because, he had to work on whatever day, and it's fine. So I'd be out doing something, run by his store. And I'm like, hey, is he here? And they'd be like, no, he's off today. I'm like, oh. Said, my bad. I just got in from town. I forgot. I'm like, see you later. Because I'm trying to save face, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Knowing that
shame.
This bleepity bleep had not only lied to me, but now he's spending the whole day with her and stuff.
What happened after you found out then?
I'm on that call with him. He's at work. And I said, if you want a snowball's chance in hell of us working out at all, I said, I need you home right now. And I think he must have set some sort of land speed record to get to the house from his work. Just told him he had an emergency and he was gone. I was so angry. I can't even tell you, livid rage, envisioned all kinds of ways that I could murder or maim him in my brain in those, 10 minutes it took him to get home.
Understandable in that situation. And so you guys talked, or he got yelled at, or probably a little of both.
A little bit of both. And because in my brain, marriages you don't divorce, right?
Right.
And up until that point, things seemed relatively good. We had some issues, worked through some things. Seemed like we were on a good path. Mm-hmm. So this was kind of a blind side but we were doing really well, and then this came out of nowhere. And I said, I need time. I said, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know if I want to stay, if I want to leave. I need time. And I asked for time. And what I asked for was, said, can we not tell anybody else about this until we figure it out? Now, his mother lived 3 blocks away from us, 3 blocks. So he's kept this from her all this time, too.
Oh, okay.
So it was about 3 or 4 months, so probably January, February, when I decided, okay, we're going to try to figure this out. We're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And part of that was, okay, we're going to have to tell people because this child is not going anywhere.
Right.
And, at that point, I'm like, all right, we haven't been able to have kids. I thought we were trying, apparently. He was trying harder than I was. Right? So, what I was going through was the fracturing of my marriage, the betrayal, the lack of trust, the death of this dream of children with him, oh my God, maybe I should never have children with him, the shame, I can't even tell you the intense, incredible shame I felt. I didn't really want to talk to my parents much or go see them much or just kind of pull back a little bit because I was so ashamed of my failure as a wife, my failure as a woman. I didn't give him a child. My failure as a marriage. Were any of these things my fault? No, not really. I mean, yes, I own any part I have in our marriage not working out, but it's not my fault that I couldn't have kids with him or my fault that he had a kid with another woman or like, seriously. But that's the emotion I was feeling so much of.
Yeah. Back to not having an excuse to be a shithead. You can own that maybe you weren't perfect. You played, there's two parts to a marriage, and both parties, even if one is way worse than the other, both parties probably contribute at least some to the imperfections of your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad to hear you say, like, no, you weren't responsible for him going out and fucking around and lying and then continuing to lie and then lying some more. So after you talked and you decide that you've got to share and that you're going to work on it. How did that go? Like, you mentioned the mother-in-law, and again, I know that we've got stories. So was she one of the first people that you guys told?
Yep.
And how did she react? How did she react?
Happy. Very happy. Shocked. I don't remember. Maybe she asked how I was doing with all of this, but it was maybe minimal. But she was so freaking happy that she had a grandbaby. She was just over the moon about this. I was like, well, okay. And then angry. Very angry with me. Because I had caused her, in my selfishness, in wanting to figure out what we're going to do with this child with an extramarital affair, I caused her to miss her grandbaby's first Christmas.
So she thought things were your fault, apparently.
Yep.
How did you react to that? Did she say it to your face?
Of course she did, yeah.
Oh, God.
Was she a wild pain in the ass of a mother-in-law before all of this?
Yes.
Okay.
She had many years ago fallen and broken her pelvis and back pelvis. And she could do oxy-like Tic Tacs. And because of those prescription drugs, you never knew who you were going to get. Like, you never. And it would be, you might get kind, loving, the sweetest human in the world, and you go outside and come back in the room, and it's a completely different person. Yeah. So you never knew. So there was a lot of tension always of who are we dealing with now.
Was that directed at you, or did your ex-husband experience that with her as well?
That was directed at everybody. She didn't care.
Okay.
She just, yeah. You just never knew what you were going to get. And there was no logic to so much of it.
Yeah.
It was just random anger of, they all smoked a lot, like chain smoked.
Okay.
his dad, mother, sister, all of them. And I have asthma because of the secondhand smoke. And I didn't like being around the cigarettes. And so we would get invited to come over for dinner, grill or something, and they would be outside and I would be inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm antisocial. And she just doesn't want to be around us. And I'm like, but you're smoking. And I can't be around that. And so then I go outside and try to sit with them, but I'm literally surrounded by smoke. And it was like, well, you're just being a bitch. I'm like, okay, I'm the bitchy one for not wanting to damage my health. And I'm like, I didn't make a thing out of it. I'm like, I'll go inside. That's fine. But like, are you guys ever going to come back in and eat food? And are we just going to smoke?
Right.
It was all these random little behaviors like that where it's like, I think I'm being logical. And she's like, you're just being a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense to not want to sit in a smoky room, whether or not you have asthma or any conditions that would make it uncomfortable.
Right. Especially if they're the reason you got the asthma.
Oh, that too.
Right. Right. So when I say there's not a lot of logic sometimes. So,
right.
So yeah, so we told her, and she fully embraced the baby, baby mama, all of it. She was over the moon about her grandchild.
All right. You slipped in baby mama. So did she, it sounds like you're saying that she developed a relationship with the mom. I mean, that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, they did.
Did the relationship with the mom, was it as bad as it was with you? Maybe you don't even know, but did she treat this woman the same way she treated you or not?
I don't know because I was never around them.
Yeah. I guess that makes
sense. But I'm going to assume so.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering if maybe because the baby was there was an ability to play nice, at least until you were out of the picture, because she wanted you out of the picture, right?
I don't think intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was necessarily me she wanted out of the picture. I don't think she wanted him with anybody.
Okay. Well, and I'm sorry for phrasing it that way with kind of a leading question, but I know that I shouldn't say I know, but I was envisioning that she saw you as maybe a barrier to the relationship she wanted with her grandchild.
Oh no, I was absolutely no barrier. They just did their thing.
When they did their thing, was your husband around too? Was it the three of them?
Yep. I tried and wanted to co-parent. Like, let's make this work. Mm-hmm. His child's mother did not want that. She did not want me around their child. Mm-hmm. Did not want me involved. But that I learned later on. But initially, when we were trying to make it work, we're having, the baby over and, having alternate weekends or whatever. And I'm trying to buy things for the baby, make sure we're taking care of, I'm trying to, if I'm going to go all in and try to make my marriage work and figure this out, this kid's got to be a part of it.
Okay. Did he maintain a romantic relationship with her?
Yes, he did. And did I know? No, I did not. And does that make me feel incredibly stupid? Yes, it does.
You shouldn't feel stupid. And
Julie,
let me say this, that when we call our guests decent fucking humans, the way that phrase came to be is that I told you that my relationship with my ex-wife, she had, I don't know how many boyfriends, but the two that I ended up in a bar with, kept saying, I feel
Well, one was her fiance.
Well, okay, fair. Yeah. So
Sorry to correct you, Scott, but carry on.
the one thing they kept saying is, I feel so stupid. I feel so stupid, because they didn't know about me or the other. And I had to say, like, if you feel stupid, I'm the dumbest one of them all, and I'm not dumb. And what I told them is that humans generally operate in this range that I call a decent fucking human. And you look for people to operate in that range. And that doesn't mean they don't do bad things and don't make mistakes, but those mistakes and those bad things are still within the range of a decent fucking human. And when you start operating outside of that range is when you can get away with shit, because people aren't going to suspect it. People are going to give you the benefit of the doubt. At least other decent fucking humans will. So it's easy to be taken in when you're a decent person. And it's not stupid. If we all had our guard up all the time, we'd have gone extinct as a species.
True.
So sometimes you have to just trust people. We should sometimes be a little smarter about it, sure. But sometimes, you have to trust people. And especially someone when you're trying to make something as complicated as marriage work. So I get it. I've been there, but you got out. You did.
I did.
It took a while.
It did take a while. I think
So-
there was never a last straw. There were like 12 last straws that just kept
Okay.
adding up.
Okay. It just started to get too heavy that you couldn't carry that burden anymore.
Yeah, I think maybe the first moment where I really broke and thought I just can't do this, was Christmas. It was her first Christmas with her grandmother. It was also the first Christmas that my sister-in-law was going to be home in like 5 years. I helped my mother-in-law for 3 days cleaning. I mean, we're talking like we're flipping over mattresses and like dusting under beds and stuff, like ridiculous level of cleaning. And I kept asking, like, okay, what do you want me to bring for Christmas? What time is dinner? What do you want us over? What do you want to help with? Blah, blah, blah. She was always kind of cagey of like, I don't know. And I found out on Christmas Eve that I was not invited to Christmas because she felt she didn't want me to feel awkward because she had invited the mistress to Christmas instead.
How nice of her. How nice of her to keep your feelings, take them into consideration.
Right? I'm still his wife. But of course, let's have a mistress there. And we had this massive blizzard that year.
Okay.
So I couldn't escape to my parents. So I spent Christmas Day that year just sobbing in my pajamas all day long.
That's so horrible. I
hadn't told my parents yet what was going on. So I'd been dealing with all this and all the shame. So I couldn't tell my parents, I'm on the phone sobbing to you. And not at Christmas because my husband is with his mistress and their child at his mom's right now. Because that shame kept me from sharing with my parents.
Yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. And again, to bring it back, that's why this podcast is here. Because I very quickly realized that the shame would have killed me if I didn't start talking to people.
Yeah.
But all of this sounds terrible, and I want to get to the good stuff, Julie. So did you just kick his ass out, or did you pack your bags, or what happened?
I had a moment where I woke up one morning and my brain just went, check his phone. I never did that. And I kept just check his phone. And I'm like, no, I don't do. And I was like, check his phone. I was like, all right, fine. I'm going to go check his phone. And it was plugged in the kitchen. So I go and look, and he was supposed to be off work that day. And there was a text from his mistress that says, I can't wait for our date tonight. And I'm thinking, we haven't had a date in 2 years. And you're still. And I just I didn't even get mad. I just went, okay, done. Like, that was the moment when I'm like, all right, he's still seeing her. He's still sleeping with her. At this point, I'm the other woman, even though I'm the wife. And it's 7 a.m. I walk back in the bedroom and I shake him awake. I say, I want a divorce. And he's like, okay, wait, what? What? And I'm like, I want a divorce. And I'm walking over and I take off my wedding ring and I stick it in the jewelry box. And he's setting up a bed. He's like, hold on, wait a minute. Like, let's talk about this. And I'm like, what is there to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
You have a child with another woman. You're still cheating on me. You're still lying to me. And I'm so over it. And he's like, no, wait, let's talk. And I looked at my watch. And I said, I got a class at the gym in 20 minutes, so I can give you 7, but otherwise we got to wrap this up. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, never mind, fuck it. And I walked out, went to the gym, went to class, and was just like, I can't describe the level of done. Like, there was no emotion at that point. I'm just like, I'm over it.
I love it. I remember my moment that taking the power back, the clarity first, and then it's like, you've got no power over me anymore.
Yep.
So I know there's a lot with divorce and a lot of feelings and everything that goes along with it. But you're here because you're thriving now. And that's what I want to talk about. What has your life been like since getting out of that shit?
Oh, a journey.
Okay.
Like, really, once I got out of it, I spent about a year just working out my rage at the gym and just getting my body healthy, losing weight. Like, talk about revenge body. I like to name them. And, I thought I was living my best life and everything's great until friends like, you have PTSD, right? And I'm like, wow!
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then I, tried to work on the PTSD and get over that. And it was like, it's like everything was a cycle of like, yeah, I think I'm great. And then it's like, oh, now I got to work on this. And then I work on that. And it's like, oh, great. Now I got to work on this. So it took several years to basically unfuck myself. And I had moments where I'm like, I really, the core of it was I had no idea who I was anymore because everything was about him, make sure that he's happy with things. The house looks like he wants it. We watch the TV that he wants. There was so much lying and gaslighting over just stupid things. Like, hey, did you remember to take the trash out? Tomorrow's trash day. Yeah, I took the bins to the curb. And I lean over and I'm looking out the window at the end of the driveway at the curb, and there's nothing there. And I'm like, no, they're not out yet. And getting to a screaming fight with me about me not believing that he took the trash out when I'm looking and going, there's no trash cans at the curb.
Yeah. So now you're taking your own trash out.
I'm still going, wait a minute, am I crazy?
Right.
But, that's one of those moments where I realized, wait a minute, I'm actually not crazy. He's been doing this to me forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took a moment where I was flipping channels and he loved Law and Order and that the dunk come on and it still makes me just kind of like, oh, I hate this. But I was in such a habit of, okay, that's on. I'll go do something else. Let him watch his show. Mm-hmm. And this is about 2-3 years after he was not living there anymore. And I took like 2 steps away, heading towards the kitchen, and I went, wait a minute. this is your house now, your TV, your cable, like what?
Your trash bins.
Right. But I was so conditioned to make sure everything was okay for him. And then I realized I have no freaking clue who I am, what I like, nothing anymore.
Yeah.
And my background is in marketing. And I've built brands for people, for companies, like multiple brands. So that kind of became my expertise. And when you build a brand, you humanize it, right? So you take, a coffee mug, and it's like, well, what's this coffee mug's personality? What's its values? What is its archetype? Like, is it more like an, adventurous Jeep style of archetype, or is it a thinker, kind of innovator, like Apple? And you go through this whole process to build a brand. So I did the only thing that I know how to do was build me as a brand. Like, I sat down and went, okay, what do I like? And since I've been coaching, when I ask people who are in the place that I was, okay, what do you like? They just give me the glassiest stare. Like, I have just asked you to solve world peace, implement it, and stop all war in the next 30 seconds. They're just like, what?
Yeah, you got to rebuild yourself. You got to figure out who you are. You've shoved that so deep down for so long, you lose yourself.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah. So you're coaching. Who are you coaching? Is this kind of the types of people who've been in relationships like yours?
Yes, I'm focused on women who've either lost themselves through relationships, bad divorces, or who just mommed to the extreme and the kids left the nest and they're like, wait a minute, now what?
Right. Okay.
Okay. Because as women, we're so trained to give and give and give and give.
Yeah.
That we don't give to ourselves when we hit this point in our life, which I trademark pending, called the fuck it point, where women just, they look around, sometimes between like 35 and 45, they look around at their life and go, fuck it. Nope, not this anymore.
Okay.
Just not this.
Yep. I get that. I feel it. I love it.
Right. And you've kind of been at that point too, where you understand, like, that's the point where you have to start rebuilding yourself. But that's also the point where you realize I have no clue who I am, what I like, what I want. Yeah. You're basically starting, you're not even starting from scratch. You're starting in a deficit, trying to undo all of the damage and crap. Yeah.
And I
but
say,
you got to start building.
And I tell people that, the day I ended up in the bar with the boyfriend and the fiance, it was the day my future died. It was like everything I thought was going to come after was no longer going to happen. And it does take time and effort and thought and work. But God damn it, it's worth it. And I can see that it's worth it. I mean, you're here. It sounds like you're doing great things. You're doing great work. So proud of you. I'm proud of everyone that comes through on the other side. So, Julie, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. And I am wrapping up, but doing it maybe a little abruptly. So, is there last thing that you'd like to say?
Absolutely. You can follow me on all the socials. I am at Choose to Rise Now.
Okay.
Good
on
name.
all the socials. My website is choosetoriseNow.com.
Okay.
That was very intentional choice when I named my company. I had a friend who helped me when I was in some of the deepest, darkest ick. And he reminded me, he goes, it's okay to sit down on your journey and rest, but you can't stay there. At some point, you have to choose to rise. I was like, that's the thing.
Well, I think that's advice that I need right now. I decided to take some time off of work a few months ago and heal a little bit. And part of that is from long COVID, and part of that is just from fucking life. And it's time to really get up and start moving again. And that's actually relates back to me saying I relaunched my blog. Is me deciding it's time to move forward again. And it's a great lesson, Julie. And I just have to say, Julie, you passed the decent fucking human test.
Oh,
I am grateful and humbled and just so happy that you are here and willing to share and that you're in such a good place today. So, Julie, thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. And terrible listeners, don't forget that you can follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at positivelyterrible.com. If you want to tell us that you love us or want to be on the show or want to get the decent fucking human tattoo,
Don't do it.
stop shaking your head, Dan. You can send us an email at podcast@positivelyterrible.com. And as always, this has been absolutely, positively terrible.
I met you back at Tonic Fest. I confess I was nervous and stressed because I thought you were the best. I was right. And that night we got into a water gun fight that I won. I shot you in the face. It was fate. I offered you a spring. You declined. I said, keep it. You might decide to change your mind. You did. Yeah, you did. Now I'm glad I got you in my life. It's alright if you don't wanna spring. I'm just glad to have your company. Then we got Rhino after that. Rhino was the fattest cat. Now we got Alan Blue. I am so lucky I found you. And then I know you like the boss. Or I am never at a loss to find the words that I should say. Because I love you to this day. It was fate. I offered you a spring. You declined. I said, keep it. You might decide to just change your mind. You did. Yeah, you did. Now I'm glad I got you in my life. It's alright if you don't wanna spring. I'm just glad to have your company. Met you back at Tonica Fest. I confess I was nervous and stressed because I thought you were the best. I was right.
Positively Terrible is a part of the Terrible Podcast Network.